I'm sorry, but your request to expand your dock is officially denied.
You can't just deny a majority vote. We will be seeing you in court, Karen.
The HOA president smiled when she rejected my $63,500 repair claim. She didn't even spend 5 minutes looking at the documents I brought. She leaned back in her chair, looked at the other board members, and said, "This is not the community's responsibility. You need to handle your own problems." Everyone around that table agreed. They thought they had won. They thought I was just another homeowner who would complain for a few days and eventually give up. What they didn't know was that the lake they loved showing off to visitors, the private docks they charged residents to use, and the luxury waterfront areas they controlled were connected to land my family had owned for more than 70 years. The HOA spent years telling people what they could and couldn't do. They created rules. They collected fees. They acted like they owned everything. But they never checked who actually owned the ground beneath their favorite lake access. And the next morning, I placed one legal notice at the entrance of the private lake area. Within hours, the same HOA board that refused to help me with a repair bill was desperately asking for a meeting, because they had just discovered the one thing they should have verified before fighting me. They didn't own what they thought they owned. When I bought my lakeside home, I knew exactly what I was getting into. Living near a lake was a privilege, but it came with responsibilities. I maintained my property, paid my HOA fees on time, followed the community guidelines, and respected my neighbors. At first, everything seemed perfect. The neighborhood looked like something from a magazine. Beautiful homes lined the water. People gathered near the docks during summer weekends. Families enjoyed fishing, boating, and relaxing by the shoreline. But after a few months, I started noticing something strange. The HOA wasn't acting like a neighborhood association anymore. It was acting like a private government. Every decision needed approval. Every improvement required permission. Even small changes that had nothing to do with safety or property value became arguments. At the center of everything was the HOA president, Karen Whitmore. Karen had been on the board for years, and she loved reminding everyone who was in charge. During one meeting, a homeowner asked why the HOA was spending thousands of dollars on unnecessary landscaping upgrades while ignoring damaged community areas. Karen simply replied, "The board makes decisions because the board understands what's best." That was her favorite answer. Whenever someone questioned her, she acted like disagreement was disrespect. I tried to stay out of HOA drama. I didn't want fights. I didn't want problems. I just wanted to enjoy my home. But eventually, the HOA's attitude affected me directly, and everything changed after one major storm.
Thousands of dollars in damages? I don't even know where to start. The insurance claim is going to be a nightmare.
The storm arrived without warning. Strong winds and heavy rain hit the entire area for hours. The next morning, I walked outside and immediately noticed something was wrong. The shoreline near my property had suffered serious damage. Part of the retaining structure protecting the land had collapsed. The damaged area wasn't just cosmetic. If it wasn't repaired, the erosion could continue and create bigger problems for nearby properties. I contacted professionals to inspect everything. After several evaluations, the final repair estimate arrived. The number was shocking: $63,500. I knew it was expensive, but I also knew this wasn't just a simple homeowner issue. The damaged section connected to the larger lake system used by the entire community. The HOA maintained shared areas around the lake. They collected fees specifically for community maintenance. So I contacted them expecting a reasonable conversation. I sent photos. I sent inspection reports. I sent the repair estimates. Instead of a discussion, I received a short rejection letter. The HOA claimed the damage was my personal responsibility. They said the affected area was part of my property and refused to contribute anything.
I'm sorry, but your request to expand your dock is officially denied.
You can't just deny a majority vote. We will be seeing you in court, Karen.
I couldn't believe it. So I attended the next board meeting. I walked in carrying a folder full of documents. Karen sat at the front of the room with the rest of the board. I explained the situation calmly. I showed them the damage. I explained how the shoreline connected to the shared lake area. But Karen barely looked at the paperwork. She pushed it back toward me. Then she said, "You're responsible for your own property. Don't expect the community to pay for your mistakes." The room became quiet. I looked around. Some homeowners avoided eye contact. Others looked uncomfortable. I reminded Karen that the issue affected the lake area everyone used. She smiled. Then she said something I would never forget. Maybe you should have checked the rules before buying here. That sentence changed everything. Because at that moment, I realized something. The HOA loved enforcing rules, but they had never checked their own. After the meeting, I decided to investigate. I wasn't interested in revenge. I just wanted answers. I started researching the history of the property. My grandfather had purchased land in that area decades before the neighborhood was built. Back then, there were no luxury houses, no private docks, no HOA, just land, trees, and the lake. I searched through old records, property maps, and archived documents. For days, I looked through everything I could find. Then I found something unexpected, a forgotten property agreement. A small section of land connected to my family's original property was never transferred the way the HOA believed. That section included an access route leading towards several private lake areas. The HOA had been using that access for years. They built around it. They advertised it. They allowed residents to use it. But they never actually confirmed ownership. They simply assumed it belonged to them. The more I researched, the clearer it became. The HOA had spent years acting like the owner of the lake access while ignoring the documents that proved otherwise. They collected money from residents. They controlled access. They created rules. But they never checked the foundation of their own authority. The same organization that told homeowners to follow every rule had ignored the most important one: know what you actually own. I didn't rush into action. I didn't post angry messages online. I didn't threaten the HOA. I knew that if I wanted this to matter, everything had to be done correctly. So I contacted professionals, reviewed the documents carefully, and confirmed exactly what rights came with the property agreement. The answer was clear. The HOA had been using land connected to my family's property without properly addressing the ownership issue. For years, they acted like they had complete control. Now, they had to face the reality they ignored. I followed the legal process and placed official notices regarding the private access area. The notice wasn't dramatic. It wasn't filled with insults. It simply explained the property rights and informed users that the area was not controlled the way the HOA had claimed. That weekend, the HOA had planned one of their usual lake events. Board members arrived expecting another normal gathering. Karen walked toward the entrance with the same confidence she always had. Then she saw the notice. Her expression changed immediately. She read it once. Then she read it again. For the first time, Karen Whitmore looked uncertain. A few minutes later, my phone rang. It was Karen. "This is ridiculous," she said. "You can't just do this." I stayed calm. "I'm not doing anything that wasn't already in the records," I replied. She became frustrated. She said the HOA had controlled that area for years. I reminded her of the words she had told me during the meeting. "Maybe you should have checked the rules before buying here." There was silence, because now those same words applied to her. The person who spent years telling everyone else to follow the rules had ignored the most important ones herself. At first, the HOA tried to fight back. They hired attorneys. They claimed they had always controlled the lake access. They argued that because they maintained the area, they had ownership rights. But maintenance was not ownership, and every document they reviewed brought them back to the same problem. They had made assumptions. They had relied on what they believed was true instead of verifying what was legally true. Their own records showed the mistake. The board meetings, the community plans, and the old property maps all revealed the same thing. Nobody had done the research. They had simply inherited the mistake and continued pretending it didn't exist. The same board that refused to even discuss my $63,500 repair bill was now requesting a meeting with me. But this time, the attitude was completely different. There were no commands, no lectures, no arrogant statements about HOA authority. They weren't telling me what would happen. They were asking if we could find a solution. During that meeting, Karen looked completely different from the person who rejected me weeks earlier. The confidence was gone. The board finally admitted that the situation needed to be handled properly. We reached an agreement. The HOA would address its responsibility regarding the lake damage. They would respect the property rights connected to the access area, and they would stop treating homeowners like their opinions didn't matter. The biggest change wasn't just about the land. It was about the way the HOA operated. People who had been afraid to speak up finally started asking questions. Residents began attending meetings. The board became more transparent. And slowly, the community started feeling like a neighborhood again instead of a place controlled by a few people. A few months later, Karen resigned from the HOA board. Some people said she left because of the controversy. Others said she simply didn't want to deal with the consequences of her own decisions. Either way, the message was clear. Power doesn't come from a title. It comes from responsibility. The HOA spent years creating rules for everyone else. But they forgot that rules apply to the people who create them too. They thought they owned the lake. They thought they controlled the community. They thought one homeowner would never challenge them. But they made one mistake. They underestimated the person who actually knew the history of the land. And in the end, the $63,500 repair bill wasn't what changed everything. The real turning point was discovering the truth they should have checked from the beginning. Before you try to control everything around you, make sure you actually own it.